President Obama announces a major change to the Bush-era No Child Left Behind law. Tonight, we have new information surrounding the suspicious death of a Rancho Cucamonga woman. The HPV vaccine is meant to protect against cervical cancer. One presidential candidate has suggested there may be a link between the shot and a very serious health issue. And not since being released from jail nearly 3 weeks ago following her murder acquittal, Casey Anthony was hours away from having to return to Orlando to serve probation. The plan to meet the state budget deadline passed, and that means California lawmakers will not be getting paid, not until the job is done. The power is back on tonight throughout California, Arizona, and northern parts of Mexico after leaving more than 5 million people in the dark. The blackout began when a utility worker in Yuma, Arizona was replacing some faulty equipment. The Republican presidential candidate squared off in a debate in Tampa, Florida. The forum, which aired on CNN, was co-sponsored by the Tea Party. The weather was a bit of a shocker for some. Others here in the desert, including myself, rather enjoyed the rain chasing away some of that hot weather. An old dead satellite will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and burn up. Most of it, but not all of it. In fact, about 1/2 ton of it's going to make its way through. Time for bogeys, the rare birdie, and bunnies as the 5th annual Playboy Golf Scramble returns to Indio. We are indeed live here at Disneyland on the Disney California Adventures side, where one of 2 new attractions will be opening starting tomorrow for the new summer season. Now, in order to enjoy the ride, I grabbed 2 random tourists here at Disneyland. We are literally on the brand new Star Tours ride right now, a ride that has 54 different versions for you to enjoy. And the TSA took some heat over aggressive security pat-downs on Capitol Hill today and conceded that sometimes that pat-down policy suffered from a simple lack of common sense. We are following breaking news as the credit rating agency Standard & Poor's says it has downgraded the United States credit rating for the first time in the history of ratings. The credit rating agency says that it is cutting the country's top AAA rating by 1 notch down to AA+. Now to a story parents need to hear. While SpongeBob SquarePants has been known to give some parents a headache, a new study suggests it may actually be hurting their kids' brains as well. The motorcyclist in Utah, who was heroically rescued from a fiery crash on Monday, went public with his gratitude today. And Brandon Wright says he's anxious to meet those people who risked their lives to save his. 10 years ago, 8 local firefighters were sent to Ground Zero a little more than 24 hours after the towers came down. Last night, in part 1 of our tribute to our local heroes, we relived the morning of September 11th. Tonight, in part 2, they take us to what first responders called the pile.
We had no idea at the time how many people were actually in those buildings. The initial reports, I think, were in the 20,000 or 30,000 people in those buildings.
As you start getting busted in and you actually start seeing the plumes of smoke and stuff like that, it kind of like really, it hits you. But I think when it hit you the most was when you actually was at the site.
On September 12th, 2001, as 8 local firefighters arrived at Ground Zero a little more than 24 hours after the 9/11 attacks, words simply could not describe what they saw.
Honestly, as much as I thought about it prior to, it only scratched the surface of what I saw when I got there. Our initial viewing of that area was we were traveling in on buses. We had like 6 buses, 9 semi-trucks, police escort from the Air Force Base into New York. Tensions were high, everybody was wound up. We're going in there to do something we've been trained to do for a long time, and a lot of talking going on the bus, and as we were coming into the area, you could see the island and the tip of the island out there and the header going up off of the island, and the whole bus, just complete hush.
I was given an assignment to go do a search with a partner of mine. And we were going in these void spaces. This is the one time that I could tell you that it really kind of affects you, because it did with me. And you're going in these void spaces and you're climbing in and you're grabbing stuff, trying to get to where you want to get. And you see deaths and pictures, purse, and it kind of all sets in when you see the pictures and stuff where somebody worked here, somebody was doing their everyday thing, and you know, and then this happens, and it's nighttime, and all you see is all these little mementos, and that really kind of like really set in for me. Like, wow, it's like unbelievable.
Hijacked airliners, two of them, slam into the World Trade Center in New York. The first blows in what U.S. officials believe is a coordinated attack by terrorists on the heart of the nation's government, military, and business centers.
On the ground and ready to go, the size and scale of the devastation was overwhelming. But it was the massive destruction, the scramble to search for survivors, that led to much of the confusion and the chaos.
Both planes had taken off from Boston. The first hits the Trade Center at 8:50 a.m. Eastern Time. The second, 18 minutes later, slams into the other tower.
It's got to be a terrorist attack. I can't tell you anything more than that. I saw the plane hit the building.
And we're standing there and wanting to go to work, and but with no assignment. So originally there was, I don't know, couple thousand volunteers in there that were doing bucket brigades, and they're actually bucketing out what's left of the World Trade Center, because everything was reduced to sand and steel girders. There was hardly anything else you could see out there. So they were actually bucketing out the sand and trying to look for survivors down in there, you know.
Looking back at the 9/11 attacks 10 years later, for all the first responders from New York City to Palm Desert, it's this event, this tragedy, this defining moment in history that will forever haunt these local heroes.
You realize how quick everything can be over. You know, the job that we do, you know, is dangerous, and there's all those firemen that were just got up that morning to do their job, and you know, they'll never see home again. A lot of the stuff is just so sunk in your head that the vision of things that we saw and stuff that you know, something you'll never forget. You know, I'm glad I was a part of it, but you know, there's some difficult things that go along with it too. You know, a lot of memories that some good, some bad.
Have you been back?
No, I have not. I have not gone back, but I plan on going back when the memorial's done.
Have you been back?
Yeah, a couple times. It was amazing to me. We were talking this morning too about you know, the footprint of where the buildings were. When we were there for the disaster, it was sprawled out over such a wide area. You know, all the streets were covered. It was, you know, World Trade Center up against other buildings, and it just looked like just a sea of wreckage. You know, but after you see it cleaned up where the streets were and all that kind of stuff, you see how small the footprint was where the actual World Trade Center stood. But it was really amazing to see that. To me, I found that real interesting.
Does it help?
No.